this meeting to order. This is the Health and Emergency Services Committee special call tonight, and for the invocation, I'll just go ahead and do this. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the chance to come together, Lord, to do people's business. Pray you please just allow us to do whatever your will is, Lord, for things, no matter how great or how small or how long or how short meetings are, Lord, or how many people are in attendance. I pray that we always do your will and we're always open up and over what the people want. In Jesus' name, I pray. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Recognition of the public. If you would you please come forward and state your name if you sign up to speak, and state your name and address, and start up here. Oh, thank you so much. Kathy Arlen, please come forward. If you would state your name and address. And then would you just push the button and it'll...
Stand here.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kathy Arlen. I live at 231 Chipaway Drive, Gallatin. And I am here, mostly I don't have a lot to say tonight. I'm here to just want to thank everybody for calling this meeting. And I do want everybody to know that many of the good changes that we've seen have come from the work of the ad hoc committee, ad hoc 1.0, if we will. And we hope that we can continue to see progressive changes to the animal sheltering practices here in Sumner County. So important that this county grows and develops, that the animal care and control function grows with it. So many months of working with this, I just want to appreciate all of you for listening to us. And I just want to say that no matter how this goes, that I do believe the ad hoc had a purpose and got results. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. Would Donna do something, please? Come forward. State your name and address. Push that button.
Good evening. My name is Donna DeSoto. Okay, good. My name is Donna DeSoto. I live in 101 Champions Court in Hendersonville. And I'm here this evening because, well, first of all, I want to thank Michael for coming out from Rutherford County to come and speak to us. I spoke with him actually from the onset when I was actually 2 months into the ad hoc committee. I sat on this board. And what I do want to make very clear is this ad hoc committee that we have formed because of the wonderful people in this county who are very engaging and have a heart and love for animals. And so I was blessed to be able to be part of this ad hoc committee, and I can speak very forthrightly about the work that was done. An incredible amount of work was done. So I have to dispel some of the myths and some of the commentary that I hear, which is very disheartening, especially to the citizens and to those county commissioners who I thank so much who have brought this forth and covered quite a bit. So when you start to look at certain things, I feel like as if I'm in a process of actually doging on a local level. We have a macrocosm at the federal, and now we're going to start doing this at a local level. So me as a concerned citizen, I need to do my part and share my intelligence and my type of resources to make things better. That's what we need to do, a collective and shared endeavor. And especially when we are working with animals and the lives of animals are at stake. That's critical. And it's a reflection on our county too, and the heart of the citizens that we have. Very blessed here to be here tonight. What I did do, because of the commentaries that were shared in the last meeting, is I created something called an Animal Control Ad Hoc Committee Framework, and also an Ad Hoc Committee Outcomes Report. What I'd like to see happen in the rules is to have a change, and that this actually gets done. It's codified in writing, and then there's no guesswork about what was done. Quite a bit of work was done. In fact, I do have an exhibit B. It is a 10-page report on shortfalls and things that we needed to do to start to try and achieve the best practice in preponderance of the data conflict with some of the things that you sometimes hear, so we put those things to rest, we put it to bed. These are some of the things I'd like to have to be adapted in the ad hoc committee itself, to make sure that we do not have any questions or concerns about what the ad hoc does and to codify things in writing. So hopefully that does come to pass. Those are the things that we do to make sure that we have a great county, that we share all these wonderful resources, and that we get to adopt beautiful animals that are part of our family. I sadly lost my wonderful rescue dog a week ago today. She was a beautiful dog. I loved her. She was a part of the family. Everybody loved Allie. And I will continue to do this for her because everybody should have an Allie. So, as I go through this too, the purpose and the structure and example, what I'd like to have this governing body do is to shore up ad hoc committees. It's a wonderful thing. I would also like to have the minutes to be added to the website for the ad hoc, so everybody gets to see the plethora of work that was done. Me personally, 18 months of my life was dedicated to try to become a knowledge expert, to go to each facility, go and see outside here, go and see the differences, and the key thing is the experience. Unless we fix the model, which we do not have a proper model, sadly it's a jail model, and the use of inmates, and those things are contradictory to best practices, and we will never achieve best practices. And if you look at adjoining counties, they don't do the things we're doing. We'll probably hear some of that more this evening. But we need to bring an elevated status here, because we have a great county. And we can be up to the par of other counties, because I physically have gone there. So I encourage people on boards to do their due diligence and go to facilities. Go and read the plethora of data. The data are there. They tell the story. And if we had some other intelligence, we would be transitioning far sooner, probably in October of last year. So my encouragement is that we become what other counties have become in animal care and animal welfare. Because that is the least among us that have the voice of the people. We need to be the voice for the voiceless. And I applaud you guys, and especially Tim, you've been remarkable. And we love you for your heart of animals, because you've had them too. I ask you to make sure that we create the model, do the transition, and create an ad hoc 2.0, do the framework, and then the outcomes. We've already laid the groundwork. We've already put to bed the reasons to believe. We have our work cut out for us, but I know we can do it, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unless anyone wants to speak, that'll be the close of the recognition. Just making sure that there's no one else who wants to speak. Okay, I want to close that out. Old business, we have none, especially for the special call. And some new business, I would like to call forth Michael Gregory, and he is the Director of Animal Control in Rutherford County. Thank you so much for being here, sir. We thank you on behalf of Sumner County.
Thank you all for having me. You have a beautiful county. Am I on? All right. Thank you all for having me. You have a beautiful county. My son plays travel soccer, and we've been up here quite frequently at your park, so I appreciate the services that you all provide there. Just a little bit of background on myself. I've been the director of Rutherford County Halls since 2011. Prior to that, I was the first director and started the animal control in Bedford County. So I've gone from basically having nothing to where we are now. So I can see things from a little bit different perspective. From Bedford, we started out, we didn't have anything. I told somebody earlier, we begged, borrowed, and steal to have everything we have. And then when I went to Rutherford, I kind of walked into a situation where it was much better, and we've grown that model and done some different things there within our department. The reason that you all asked me, or the invitation that I had this evening, was to come and speak regarding how our department operates as an independent county department and not part of the sheriff's department. Both models that I've worked with have been that way. We were our own department. State law, TCA, put my pages here. TCA under CTAS-573 and under TCA 5-1-120, it gives the county legislative body by resolution, they may license, regulate dogs and cats, establish and operate shelters and other animal control facilities, and regulate, capture, impound, and dispose of stray dogs, stray cats, and other stray animals. So you do have the ability to have a department that does operate without being part of the sheriff's department. Now there are good things and there are bad things when it comes to that. One of the things that I see as a good thing is the sheriff's department and the animal control both are a public safety department. But by operating separate, the sheriff's department is focused on much different crimes than what an animal control department is focused on. My officers are trained by NACA, which is National Animal Control Association training. They have NACA Training 1 and NACA Training 2. Our officers are also required to go through training to become certified to perform humane euthanasia, which is a course that's offered in the state through an organization that I'm part of called Animal Care and Control Association of Tennessee. So when you have your sheriff's departments, they're dealing with a different set of crimes than what animal control officers are dealing with. Of course, with the crimes that they're dealing with, obviously a murder, a rape, child abuse, and things like that they're very important. They need to take precedence. So when a lot of times animal type matters go by the wayside. Of course, when it comes to resources, that can also be an issue there as well. When you have a department that's that large and using limited tax funds, resources can be very, very scarce there. Some of the good things that come in my mind from a department that's independent goes back to we're focused on just that one particular area versus all of the law. Also, you're adding in animal care to that. So you're not talking about just the law enforcement and public safety side of it as far as going out and enforcing those laws, running those calls and type things. You're also dealing with the actual care of animals in the shelter. You need a staff that's trained in those things, folks that can do behavior evaluations, folks that know how to manage care, folks that know how to take care of the medical needs, making sure the cleaning protocol is handled and done correctly. And those things cost money. But getting folks in there that can do those things versus folks that are geared towards that more law enforcement side and not the animal care side, I feel is very important. For us, has it been perfect? No. We run into things every single day. I think one of the benefits of having the law enforcement aspect of being involved is they have access to tools that we don't have. You know, if I pull up on scene to a call and I need somebody to identify themselves and they refuse to, I don't have the ability to force that. I don't have the ability to make arrests. I can't run a license plate on someone. So we do have to work in conjunction with our law enforcement to be able to assist us with those particular things to try to get the things that we need. We've also ran into some issues with our judicial system. But the things that we've run into with our judicial system, excuse me, are things that we would have ran into whether we were the sheriff's department or our own department. Meaning we have at times ran into issues to where judges didn't see us as being law enforcement or certain things, even though there's attorney general's opinions that show those things. So we've had to come up with some backdoor options to be able to take care of those things. Our folks do take an oath of office to become a deputy enforcement agent with Rutherford County. They're able to issue citations. They're also able to take out warrants against folks. Where we've ran into concerns with our judicial system has been with felony animal cruelty. So we have, depends on which day you go down to the commissioner's office, sometimes you can get it through and sometimes you can't. But we've come up with a workaround with our district attorney to be able to do some things when it comes to those cases. So we do hit a lot of roadblocks by not being part of the sheriff's department, but we figure out ways to overcome those roadblocks. Again, I think the benefits of us being on our own outweighs in my mind some of those roadblocks that we do go through. Some of the things that we've done that we would never have been able to done had we been part of the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department is more, like I said, focused on public safety, which we are a public safety agency. Thankfully, our commission, well before my time, even when I was at Bedford, allowed us to have an adoption program. That's not required by state law. Actually, animal control department is not required by state law. I used to get, every year when I went into my budget, I got asked the same question. What two departments are not allowed by state law? And you all know? Animal control and ambulance service. And that surprises you to hear the ambulance service part. So every year I was threatened that, hey, they were just going to do away with us because they didn't have to. But every year they funded us. But they also funded us with the ability, thankfully, to be able to do some outside things, such as our adoption program. Rutherford County's been great to do that. Rutherford County also, we've been able to take data and been able to go back to them and show by doing some trial programs on some things with some surgeries. Back in 2014, 2015, we started our surgery program. It was very, very limited. It was using grant funds to get us started, but the data showed that we were making improvements. We went back and were able to get Rutherford County to fund us through our county licensing fee to start a spay and neuter program for any resident of our county. So regardless of how much money you make in Rutherford County or how little you make, we want to get your animals spayed or neutered. We've seen our euthanasia rate go from 70 to 80% when I got there, and now we're down to less than 10% typically every single month. You're never going to adopt your way out of the problem. So we really focused our efforts and we focused our resources on that spay and neuter program. We've had folks that come in that don't know how they afford anything. They use our program, and we've had folks that have pulled up in BMWs that were lawyers and judges, and they put on their thing they did it because they couldn't afford it. I don't really care. We just decided that we were going to spay and neuter their animal regardless. We want to remove any barrier to that, and we're having great success by doing those things. So we've looked at the enforcement side of it, but we've also looked at how can we do some things over here to save money in the long run. And those are some things I think that are very reasonable. Yes, it does cost a lot of money. I'll tell you, animal control is not cheap. Animal control is never going to pay for itself. But it is a service that the citizens of Rutherford County want, and it sounds like something that you all have in this meeting and doing the work that you all have been doing, it sounds like something that your citizens are interested in as well. That kind of gives a brief overview. I figured there's probably going to be a lot of questions, so I thought that we would kind of go into that.
Whatever the beginning, if you don't mind. We appreciate you so much being here. I've got a few questions. I know that y'all have some too. Were you ever there? I know 2011 when you took over the calls. Were you ever there when it was under the sheriff's department, or was it never under the sheriff's department? Did I miss that?
To my knowledge, it's never been under the sheriff's department. I've been involved in animal control since 2004. Actually, I did some training and some ride-alongs with Rutherford County at that time when they were at their old shelter, and they were never part of the sheriff's department then. To my knowledge, they've never been. Okay, so I might have missed it at the beginning because I was trying to find in, but what department are you under? Like, who is your reporting chain? My direct supervisor is the county mayor. Then above that, I give a report monthly to the public safety committee. There's 6 different committees that oversee, so I answer the public safety committee on that. And then, of course, budget and things like that, depending on what the particular topic is. But my direct report is to Mayor Carter.
How large of a staff do you have?
We are budgeted for 40 positions, 37 full-time and 3 part-time. Out of those, 11 are officers. Now, not all of those positions are filled, but 11 officers. I can go down the mix if you kind of need me to. Please. Okay. I can kind of, it might be easier for me to start and kind of at the top and kind of go chain of command, and then y'all can kind of break it down from there. So, of course, myself, the director. Under myself, I have our chief veterinarian. Under her, we have a staff veterinarian. We have 3 full-time vet assistants and 1 part-time vet assistant. If you go back up, it would be lateral to the chief veterinarian would be our field supervisor. She oversees our field operations, our animal control officers, and have 11 of those positions. Then back up, we have a shelter supervisor, The shelter supervisor, right underneath them, has two leads. One is a kennel lead, one is a customer service lead. I see all right. Am I going too fast?
Yeah.
Okay. Under the kennel lead, there are 6 full-time kennel attendants and 2 part-times. Under the customer service lead, there are 4 full-time animal care technicians and 1 part-time animal care technician. And then we recently just reorganized and we have a support supervisor that will be up there at the top with the other supervisors. And under the support supervisor, there are 2 admin assistants / dispatchers, a public relations media specialist, and a volunteer foster coordinator.
Thank you for that. Okay, so 37 are full-time, 3 are part-time. And I'm assuming that pretty much all of those 37 are, tell me if I'm wrong, are they all benefited, full benefit employees of the county?
Yes, sir. Would you like for me to describe our benefits? They're probably fairly similar. The biggest thing is going to be the TCRS. I'm sure I'm assuming that you're a part of the TCRS retirement program. That's kind of one of our biggest benefits. Of course, our health insurance as well.
Yeah, unless others need, I don't think that's. Okay. What about, because I know Rutherford County has animals that are not just dogs and cats. What about larger livestock animals such as, cows, goats, sheep, horses, that?
When it comes to the investigation of cruelty towards those particular animals, Tennessee Department of Ag is a place for that. Now, the law states, and the law changed a couple of years ago, it used to state that anybody can investigate large animals as long as they were a veterinarian, an ag extension agent, or had a degree from an accredited university in agriculture. There was some lobbying, I think may have been longer than 2 or 3 years ago now, toward the ag extension really lobbied to get out of that. And then it got changed, and we really kind of turned that over to the Department of Ag. So when folks contact us for cruelty specific to large animals, we refer them to the Department of Ag's website so they can file that online complaint, and we let them handle it. In our county, one of the things that keeps getting thrown around, and I'm sure you've heard it as well, unfunded mandates. And this was something to where it was a way of, look, we have enough stuff to do. It's hard enough for us to find folks. It's definitely hard for us to find folks that have degrees in animal science to go out and investigate those things. So if that falls into the Department of Ag's purview, we allow them to handle it. Now, it's a little bit different when it comes to running at large. When it comes to running at large, depending on what's going on there, we do have to get involved with those. Thankfully, haven't had to in a little while, but we have kind of ran the gamut as far as the animals that we've had at the shelter. We've had multiple horses, donkeys, cows, pigs, goats, ewes, you name it. So when it comes to those, we do house those, but we don't have a dedicated place for those animals, and they can't stay outside of our shelter based on how the land where our shelter was given to us. So we kind of have to beg, borrow, and steal on that some, especially when it comes to cows and horses.
Okay, that's very helpful. Would you mind, I think this would really help the public and the committee and anyone listening. Just would you walk us through 2 scenarios? One where it would have really helped you, and it was very messy because you didn't have a sheriff's department, mandate's the wrong word, because you weren't sheriff's deputies. And then walk us through an option, if nothing crazy, but just another option where it really helped you because you weren't. Give us a best case scenario and a worst case scenario, if you wouldn't mind, just for the people. Is that okay with you all? Do y'all understand that question?
Compare and contrast.
Yes.
So they will walk with
Yeah. If you guys have a question on that, please speak up on that. If you don't mind. Thank you, sir.
You're going to test me on that one. In just generalities, the biggest thing that I see the sheriff's department as being able to help with, like I said, go back to those felony animal cruelty cases. Not having for us to go through kind of the workaround to get to that. But we don't see a ton of those cases, so it's not a super huge burden. In the general day-to-day aspects, it's more about having some of the investigative tools that they have that we don't have. Again, running a license plate, running somebody through their system. Now, our sheriff's department has been very good to us. If we have questions or need assistance, they're always there to help. I've got a really good relationship with the command staff there, and they've been very helpful to us. So there's been situations. I can give you some situations where law enforcement was involved. We have, within Rutherford County, we have our city's jurisdictions as well, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne, Eagle. We have had some of those jurisdictions come out to help us on scenarios where someone wouldn't identify or somebody would not comply. And our only option was to issue them a citation, but again, the person would identify. You can't issue a citation to someone that you don't know who they are. We've asked some of those local jurisdictions to come out, and they would refuse to help identify those folks. We've had to leave scene, the sheriff's department would call them the next business day or whatever, and they'd help us identify those folks, just based on the limited information that we have. The biggest thing is going to be those felony cruelty cases. But again, when you go back and look at the sheriff's department, they're dealing with all this, these things fall by the wayside. So we're kind of the stopgap measure for those particular cases. I guess before I go on, does that kind of, I can't give you, a specific case, but those are going to be some of the examples. So does that answer that portion of the question? Okay. Situations to where us not being part of the sheriff's department. I would say probably more so just our general kind of everyday cases. I'm kind of trying to think of a larger case. We've had, I can think of 40 cases that we've had that we've worked with the sheriff's department, and they go out and help us when we serve search warrants and when we serve court orders to remove and those type things. Generally, we don't run into any problems there. I wouldn't say there's per se benefits of not being part of the sheriff's department. I think the biggest part when it comes to those type cases is going back to the animal care side of it. The sheriff's department is geared towards the law enforcement side of that, but when they walk into a scene and there's 50 cats in that house, or a case where there were 50 cats in an RV abandoned in the Walmart parking lot on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock, they're not prepared to deal with those things. So I think the biggest thing is when it comes to the animal aspect of that. We liken it, we get called out by our sheriff's department and law enforcement all the time. We get called out to assist them because there's an animal on the scene. We do the exact opposite. We're trained with the animals, we come out and deal with that. We're the exact opposite. We have them come out to help us when we have them with people because that's what they're trying to do. And they step out of the way and we handle the animal part on our own. Does that somewhat answer that?
Very much so. Can you tell me just, I don't want to ask specifics because I don't want to get into any personal details, but what is the budgeted, salary for everyone, a combined? I'm not asking an individual, it doesn't seem like it would be rude to ask that question, but you understand what I'm saying? What would be the budgeted salary amount for those 37 full-time and the 3 part-time?
I can tell you that our total budget is $3.1 million. Out of that, and I don't know the exact breakdown, but obviously salary and benefits are going to be the main part of that.
I have one more question, and I'm going to let the others speak as much as they, if they have a question, I don't want to hinder that by any chance. Has there been a time when you felt that you or your employees or your staff were in danger because you didn't have an armed sheriff's deputy with you on a call?
Our folks are trained if they're in that situation, they're trained to get in their vehicle and leave and remove themselves from that and then reach out to local law enforcement to come out. Is our position dangerous? Yes. Some of the things that we've taken over the last 10 years to protect them, our folks wear a bulletproof vest. Our folks are not armed. They're equipped to get out with a catch pole and a clipboard every single call. The clipboard and the catch pole is to provide distance between them and an animal. Again, we're dealing with animals and not necessarily people. When it comes to a belligerent person, they're trying to get in the vehicle and leave, allow law enforcement to come out there and do those things. We have had a couple of instances over the years to where there were firearms that were out there. That's the reason that we put the bulletproof vest in. The reason we were on a call was not why they weren't trying to shoot at us. I think it was more of a domestic situation than anything. But it is dangerous. Our folks, we were budgeted for this fiscal year, and hopefully plan to have this implemented before the end of the year. Knock on wood. We are implementing body worn cameras with our officers. The biggest thing for that is protection of our officers, but also protection of the public. We get a lot of complaints. Your officer did this, and I don't know that he said. We have had situations to where folks put their hands on our officers. We did have one particular instance in Laverne, probably about 5 years ago. Our officer was not injured, but we couldn't press charges because we didn't have any proof. It was only us and the other person. So we're trying to take some of those things out of the equation. Some of the things that we have looked at over the years, and I do eventually see us going to, is some training with our officers to where it does come to how to protect themselves from physical harm. We talked about potentially doing pepper spray, batons, things like that. But in my mind, I've always been hesitant to do that because I thought the body worn cameras needed to be in place first, because I need to be able to prove why you did the action that you did. So that's kind of our next step in our next progression. As far as us carrying firearms, I can't envision that for quite some time. Now, the risk that my officers face is the same risk that any other employee of the county would face. We've got a pretty large building codes department, zoning department. Those folks are going out, and they're going up to those same things without even some of the protections that we have. So it's a dangerous position. Obviously, dealing with the public can be very dangerous. You don't know what you're walking up onto some of those things. Yes, it's something that causes me a lot of stress and a lot of concern to make sure my folks are well cared for.
Thank you again very much. I'm going to open it up to let the rest of the committee ask them some questions. Thanks, guys, for giving us some leeway on there. I hope I made some good ground for everybody. Appreciate it.
Your officers are not state certified law enforcement officers, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you said they went through national animal control, just like ours do, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, once our folks have gone through our training process and they get to where they're out on the road on their own simple calls, then yes, they do go through animal control, NACA training 1 and 2. None of our folks have gone through 3, including myself.
And your officers are certified euthanasia here in Tennessee, just like ours, correct?
Yes, sir. Sorry. We'll go back and forth like this all night. Yes, one of the requirements in our job description is all animal control officers have to be certified to perform euthanasia. Yes, sir. Now we have set up, going back to your first question, we've set up, actually it was this fiscal year, an ACO 1 and ACO 2. We were trying to put some things in there to try to help with retainment of folks and also with recruitment as well. So when our folks hire in, if they have 0 officer experience, they come in as an ACO 1 that you might liken to a police or fire recruit. During that year of them being an ACO 1, they have to get that euthanasia certification and they have to complete NACA 1 and NACA 2. And then on their year anniversary, they would automatically go to an ACO 2, which includes a pretty significant pay raise.
Do your officers write their own search warrants, or do you still have to call in the sheriff's office to perform that function?
We do write our own search warrants. We write those and take those down to whichever judge presiding for that week and have those signed. We don't do a ton of search warrants. Seems like here recently we kind of have, but typically not. The majority of what we do is a court order to remove, and that's when it comes to abandonment cases. So for our abandonment cases, we would go out and let's say you call about your neighbor and you haven't seen them in a couple of days, and we go out and just start that process. So we would feed and water that animal, post that property. After 5 days, if there's been no contact, then we would go back to the court with a court order to remove, which is much simpler than a search warrant, just to ask for that animal to be removed from that property, and they sign it. We do have law enforcement come out with us on those cases when we do serve those court orders to remove. Obviously, the search warrants, they're there. They're the ones that are serving those things, but we write all that stuff ourselves.
So you write those, but you don't execute them.
That's correct. We write them, we take them to the judge, we swear them out, and then we have law enforcement come out to serve that. If we're doing a search warrant, we want law enforcement on scene at all times for that, just to make sure there's no issues. I can think of one case to where they did not remain on scene the entire time. I mentioned the case of the 50 cats. There was a case where we served a search warrant out of the very edge of the county for cats. That the gentleman was arrested, I believe, when we first got on scene, and we had to stay with that search warrant for about 36 hours because we continued to capture animals. Law enforcement did not stay with us. They served the warrant, they left, we took care of the animal portion from there.
Do y'all go to active crime scenes like suicides, homicides, and so forth, and there are animals inside the residence?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do. Just as we ask law enforcement to come and assist us on calls, we get assist calls for us to help law enforcement all the time as well. So we have somebody that's on call 24/7. We're called out all the time for murder, suicides, overdoses, those type things, and have to take possession of those animals. Most of the time, we are able to find the next of kin. Somebody typically is on scene, they get in touch with them, they can kind of take care of them. But if not, we'll pull those animals in for protective custody. So yes, my folks are on scene for those. Sometimes they're in the residence, vehicle, whatever, before the deceased has been removed. Most of the time, we get there. By the time we're there, they usually kind of wait a little bit to call us, and we go out and kind of take care of that once the crime scene portion is wrapped up. However, if it's a house where they can't get in for aggressive animals, we're the first ones in. There's times to where even on their search warrants, we're out there, we're staging with them, and we're one of the first ones in if they know that there's animals on scene, because again, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. They're trying to deal with the people, we're trying to deal with the animals. So we had one within the last couple of weeks that we were one of the first ones on scene to make sure that we knew going in there was a couple of aggressive lighter animals on that property, to make sure we were there to make sure that happened to law enforcement. So that we're assisting them as not as much as they're assisting us.
Yes. You have 37 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. And your budget is $3.1 million.
It's 3.2. Yes, sir. It got raised a little bit. The county gave us a mid-year salary adjustment this year, which had never happened before, so it went to 3.2. We're not spending all of that. Last year we turned in, I think it was 2.9, and we turned in, I think $300,000 or $400,000. So you take that 3.2 this year because of vacancies and whatnot. I looked at it this morning. We're projecting, I think, around $400,000 when we turn back in, so that would take us down to 2.8. And then we're collecting about $500,000 in revenue a year, so that puts us down at 2.3.
Just right off the top of your head, how many animal calls do y'all answer per day? Because you answer inside the city limits, countywide, correct?
Yes, sir. We're the only animal control agency for all of Rutherford County. So we cover, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the area, we cover all the way from basically Beach Grove to Laverne, all the way from basically almost Deason. We have some addresses that are Bell Buckle, all the way north to, we have some Mount Juliet addresses out there around Catchville Pike, Lamar Road, those type areas. As far as our officers, They're typically handling around 15 calls per day. Now, we've had to adjust some schedules and some things like that. At the max, we were running close to 20,000 calls per year. It's come back down. We've been on limited services for a while, but we're still running anywhere from 13 to 15,000 calls per year. Now, each of those, let me preface, each of those calls, when an activity for us is opened, let's say it's activity number 1, that may have multiple sequences to that. So we may go out today and not make contact with the owner. So the call is reset for us to go again tomorrow. And that would be a sequence 2, and then it would keep going. So each one of those counts, each one of those sequences, or each time that we touch it counts as a call, but it's all wrapped up under that one case or activity number, if that makes sense.
How much is your licensing fee for animals, and what animals does that pertain to?
Our licensing fee is just for dogs and cats. It is $5. It's been $5 now since 2015. When I talked about us opening the spay neuter, what we did was, at that time, our licensing fee was $2, and from the best research that we could find, it had been that way since 1978. So from 1978 to 2015, I don't think you found anything for $2 anymore. So what we did was we went back to our mayor at that time and said, we would like to increase this fee. And I'm definitely not a raise taxes type person. So it was very difficult for me. It kind of went against everything within me. But I said, if we're going to raise it, I'm asking you to take the $3 and put it back into our department. And at that time, they agreed. And what we did, it passed unanimously by our commission. We asked for that $3 to be used for a couple of different things. First, we wanted to hire a PR person. We wanted somebody that could promote our animals. Of course, social media, that was back in 2015, even the last 10 years, social media and any kind of PR work, that kind of thing has exploded. So we asked for that. We asked to be able to start the public spay neuter program. And at that time, we only asked for 1,000 surgeries, or however far the money went, per se. And then we knew that if we were going to expand our surgeries, we also needed to hire, at that time, a part-time person. We started it when we had our veterinarian and one full-time vet assistant. We knew we needed a part-time person to assist with that. And they graciously gave that money back to us for us to be able to do that. Every year since we started that program, we've grown those surgeries. So the first year we did over 1,000. Now we're doing about 2,500 to 2,600 per year. So that was a way of getting that program off the ground and at least being able to show the data and showing the benefits that it's been successful.
I want to thank you for coming up and doing your presentation. You didn't have to. You drove all the way up here, and it is appreciated. Irregardless of how everything goes here, I hope that if we have any questions or concerns, we can possibly call you or get in contact with you. And I'm sure that will be possible. Because y'all have always been cooperative with the Sumner County Sheriff. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. My mayor, this year gave me permission to come. I said I wouldn't come. I don't stick my nose in other people's business, as I explained to Commissioner Jones when they reached out with a formal rotation. I asked for his permission. He thinks very highly of your mayor and said, yes, by all means, go and see what you can do with information. So thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, Cornell. What are the funding mechanisms for the department? Just mainly the licensing? That's where you get the $500,000, or how do you come up with that?
I had to as well. I think I got it down now.
You got it.
Out of that $500,000, about $300,000 of that is the licensing, and then usually about $30,000 of that is donations to the shelter, and then the rest of it's going to be kind of all lumped into adoptions, reclaims. We do an animal offender class, and that brings in about $2,000 a year. So the rest of it's that. We do get I failed to mention this. One of the things too, and I don't know why this is the case. Nobody's ever been able to explain it to me. We do get a contribution from the city of Smyrna and the city of Murfreesboro to help offset some of our costs. City of Laverne's funded us one time since I've been there. Eagleville has never been asked. I'm not sure why that was. That was in place when I got there. So about $120,000 of that comes from those two city contributions.
So Rutherford County's, I just quickly looked up, 367,000 people in the county. We're at about 280,000, so y'all are like 45% larger than us. That 3.2 million, what did it start at back in 2011? I mean, you don't have to be exact, but I'm sure it's grown over the years, and I don't want people to think that we're facing a $3.2 million budget if we decide to do this. It's going to be considerably less than that because of the size difference, but you don't have to start with like 37 employees either doing something. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, from memory, I think when I started in 2011, I believe we were right around 2 million, if I recall. If you recall, that was right about. I remember the first couple of budgets that I did. The biggest hit, I tried to keep it as low as I could. The biggest hit was when the Affordable Care Act came into existence, and our health insurance rates just rocketed. I mean, I was trying to maintain the line, and it was going up, seemed like $100,000 every year just for health insurance. Of course, yes, our population has grown a lot. I don't remember what it was in 2011. It probably was, I'm going to say, in that 225, 250 range if I had to guess. We've grown exponentially. Right now, they're saying that we've taken Hamilton County as the 4th largest county in Tennessee. There's 360, I think. I believe it was the Boyd Research Center, I believe at UT, is saying that I think we're close to 390 now. And they're saying that by 2040 we're going to be, I think, at 500,000 people, if I recall. So we've grown exponentially. I did a little bit of research because I figured numbers might come up as far as budgeting. So back when I first started in 2004, this was a book that I've had since then. It's ancient. I don't even know if they still do it or not. It's called Animal Control Management Guide for Local Governments. It's from the International City County Management Association. And at that time, when this was put out in 2001, it said that the minimum amount per capita for animal control services should be $4 a person. So I took today and I plugged in and said, look, $4 in 2001, how much in 2025? Because we know what inflation's been like. It's $7.21. So I looked up, and these figures may be a little bit behind, but I saw y'all's population showed it was 216,540 is what I found online. So if you take that, and just from what I saw budget-wise, I think you are spending around $800,000 for animal control now. Is that correct? Okay. So I want to make sure y'all know what my figures were. So if they're wrong, you'll know. But if we take that 800,864 divided by that 216,540, that puts y'all at $3.70 per capita, which is 30 cents lower than 2001 numbers. I'm not saying it has to be the $7.21. It'd be really, really hard for me to manage a budget with that kind of population and area that you all have for that kind of money. And again, I say that, as I said a while ago, I'm a conservative. I don't like spending money, but it'd be very difficult.
Thank you. And I know we're probably facing an increase no matter how we go about this. We just raised the department's budget by $140,000 last year, I think, to get it to where it is now. And I've been told that the sheriff's department is currently working on a budget that would add increases for this year if they do keep it. So we're going to be facing an increase regardless of the direction. The euthanasia rate, you said less than 10%. How are you getting rid of animals without euthanizing at that rate? That's extremely good. Just partnering with like fosters and adoption, and like, can you speak a little bit about that?
So bear with me, it's going to be a little bit of a long answer, but it's something I do enjoy talking about. So when I said we started that spay neuter program in 2015, here's why that came about. My office sits at the front of the building, and it's got a sidewalk that goes right down where our receiving area is. So every day, I never knew what was going to walk into the door of that shelter. I use this as an example, so I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, anything like that. I use it as an example. If you're a manager at Walmart, please don't kill me for saying this. But if I work down here at the Walmart Supercenter, I know how many trucks are coming in that day. I know that I've got to be prepared for X number of semi-trucks to come in, and I've got to have a place to put that stock. That's really no different than what I do as a shelter. I have to manage that animal population. And if I don't know who's showing up at the door that day, I can't manage that. I can't have enough staffing there to make sure they're fed clean and water. I don't have enough cages to be able to handle those. So at that time, I can remember looking out my door on a Friday afternoon, window just like this, and they were lined up down the sidewalk, probably 15 people deep. And I don't know how I'm supposed to manage that. I'm supposed to be the director of that shelter, but so many things are out here outside of my control. There was a lady that had a folding chair, and every time somebody would come in to receive them, she'd pick up her folding chair and she'd move it down a little bit. And that day, I went back to our euthanasia room, and I killed 3 litters of kittens simply because I had 0 cage space. Nothing wrong with these kittens whatsoever. These litters of kittens came from what you would consider the country club area of Rutherford County. And I went back there and I killed all those animals, and I said, you know what? I am not doing this again. Period. So what am I going to do to keep this from happening? That's when we started looking at different ways of going, how do we increase our surgery numbers? How do we come up with the funding to be able to do those? And that's what precipitated all that change in 2015, of us going back and saying something's got to change. Because here's the thing, they moved into that shelter in 2004, and they were in the old, what most people would have considered a dog pound at that point. And all they did was capture, kill, capture, kill, capture, kill. Well, you know the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. This is not going to do it anymore. So our surgery program, the public looks at it and they say, that's great, that's a service that Paul's offers. We did the surgery program self-serving to the county. We looked and said, we've got to do something different. To stop killing animals, we've got to have them not come in the door to start with. So if we can offer the spay and neuter, we take that part out of it. So the main reason why our euthanasia rate is going down is because they're not being born to start with, and they're not coming into my shelter to start with. So that was one part of it. The other part of it that we did was, for years, we were going out and tracking, and people would go out and track wildlife. Well, Yost County's expanded just like our county has. We're pushing wildlife further and further out. Well, I can go out and trap 1,000 skunks a year. Guess what? There's going to be 1,000 more next year, and 1,000 more the following year. So going out and capturing wildlife and euthanizing them is not a method for handling them. So we stopped doing that. The third thing was people would set traps. It was not unheard of for us to have 20 cats and trap calls every single day. So we were bringing in these feral cats that no one can handle. We're stressing them out. We're holding them in the back for 3 days. And then at the end of 3 days, I can't do anything with them. They're not adoptable. So we were killing them. I said, we're not going to do that anymore. That was about the time that community cats or trap neuter release really came along. And we were able, since we had the extra surgery capacity at that time, to start doing those things. So now when a feral cat comes in, it comes in today. It has surgery tomorrow, and it leaves our shelter the following day. And we're able to cycle those things through. It's much less stress on the animal because they're not sitting there 3 days. We're not having a euthanasia list at 6 o'clock at night of 20 animals every single night and putting down for no reason other than because you can't be handled. So it was the biggest thing is the surgery programs is what made us successful. One of my previous county mayors flat out said, he said, if you were to lose your veterinarian in your surgery programs, you'd be dead in the water. And he's right. We're never going to adopt our way out of it. We're never going to have enough reclaims to get our way out of it. We're never going to be able to have enough transports. We're never going to have enough adoptions. Never going to have enough folks coming in to get their animals back to get us out of that problem. So we have to deal with this ball of wax over here first. Does that help to answer that?
Yeah. So we recognize end of 2023 that we had an issue with similar things and reached out to somebody mutually with our ad hoc committee and our sheriff's department both reached out to somebody that spoke about best practices. And they told us to implement something like what you have. And we're going down that path right now we weren't spay neutering and vaccinating all animals that came out of there. And now we are. The last 2 months we've had 100%. So I commend our sheriff's department for getting that done, because I think that's the goal in changing the population of animals out there, like you just described. But we just need the ability to do more of it. We've also corrected the relationship of the person that was doing the spay and neuters for us, but we don't have somebody on staff that does that. So we are dependent on somebody and a relationship there to do those lower cost surgeries. So getting more of that done is our goal. I say our goal. We no longer have an animal control ad hoc committee, but it is a goal that I think a lot of the advocates and citizens have pushed for to make those things happen, because they recognize that that is the key to getting the population under control so that the vaccination rates go down. Ours are a considerable amount higher for euthanasia, but they're not what they once were. So they've come down also. We just hope to do more of that. So, did you have something else you want to say? I saw you reaching for the button.
When I came from Bedford, we started that animal control in 2004. I was the first employee. Just about everything that we captured was euthanized. In 2008, we started doing transports. At that time, transports were a great thing for a rural shelter because there was not enough supply in the north. Everybody kind of uses that as a forest, but they were transporting animals mainly to northern states because they needed them. Transports are a little bit more difficult to come by. Rescue groups are a lot more difficult to come by. Everybody, since COVID happened, the animal sheltering world has basically been turned upside down. I don't know if we're ever going to get back to what we were. I hope we do. So we've learned that the only way that we're going to be able to help those euthanasia owners and those type things is to get those animals out. The other thing is too, by doing that spay and neutering, there's a model, and especially when it comes to cats. I never thought we would get to a point. We were usually, I would dare say we were probably euthanizing about 90% of our cats. So even though our average may have been 70 or 80, it was probably about 90% of the cats. I never thought I would see the day to where our cat live release rate is much, much better than our dogs. Sometimes our cats are getting to 98, 99% live release rate, and that's through that community cat program. But by doing that and that, it's a little hard to describe the model, but basically you're bringing these cats in, you're spaying and neutering them, and you're putting them back out in the environment in which they've already been thriving, but they can't reproduce now. So eventually you get to a point to where as those cats age and start to die out, there's nobody to replace them. So you eliminate kind of that vacuum effect. So for us, I would hate to know where we were had we not done the spay and neuter part of it. That's been my huge passion. That was my passion when I was at Bedford. That's part of the reason I came to Rutherford, because I could see they were hiring, they had the space to build in a vet clinic, to hire, they already had the money to hire a veterinarian and that type of thing. But when I was at Bedford, we still came up. I said I had to think outside the box, bang, bar, and steel. While I was there, I helped them form a low-cost spay neuter clinic, which was Middle Tennessee Spay Neuter Clinic. It still exists today. And it was in the back of an accounting house, for lack of a better term, and basically a couple of closets. But we were still starting to make an impact there when it came to spay and neuter. The spay and neuter, in my mind, is where you get the most return on your investment over going out, capturing, housing, trying to figure out what you're going to do with them from there.
Thank you for being here, and I'm trying not to take up too much of your time. How much, or I guess, how do you determine who pays the licensure fee? And can you describe your relationship with the district attorney in your county? And I'll have some more questions as well.
So the license fee goes back to whoever the owner is. So the way our license fee works, and this was set up before my time, I would say that it would be difficult to start it from scratch now, but it could be done. When it comes to our rabies tags that the veterinary issues for that vaccination, it's set up to where they collect that fee. So we issue the rabies tags out to that veterinary clinic. They collect that fee, and then when they get new tags, they pay that fee to us. So for instance, let's say they're charging $10 for a rabies vaccination. So they'll either include in their cost for a rabies vaccine that license fee, or they'll separate it out as the rabies is $10 and the license fee is $5, or they just charge $15 for that rabies vaccine. It's included in that.
How do you, try not to belabor the buttons here, but how do you get the rabies tags to issue?
We use the state health department's tags. So we work in conjunction with our local health department. Those tags are issued out to those local health departments. When those tags come in the first year, they issue them out to us, and then we divvy them out to those vet offices. We keep up with the records for them. At the end of the year, we turn those numbers back over to the health department. So it's a way the county health department's not really handling that. We're doing that on our own. So when those things are issued out, they get a new strand of tags. They send us a report. We keep all the reports there in the office and keep those on file. So if somebody calls, I found dog, rabies tag, whatever, we can go look up that information and get that out. We provide those numbers back to the state. The reason why I say that it could be potentially difficult to do something similar to that now is, and there's been pushback. When we raised our fee from $3 to $5, there was a little pushback of where the vet offices are being tax collectors. Yes, in a sense they are. But if they don't do it there on the spot, then we would have to come over here and have some type of system in place where we would have to have a couple of folks that did nothing but that as far as to collect that. For us, the way we've talked to our vets about it is this: if I can go to your clinic and have that vaccine done and it's included, and I don't have to go make a second stop, I would choose your clinic over going to your clinic to where I have to go to two different places.
I'm not trying to run down a rabbit trail. We live close to a neighboring state. How do you overcome that barrier?
That is a Rutherford County ordinance. Now, we can get off into some highways there when it comes to regulations and some of the enforcement parts of that. It can make it difficult. We do have folks, especially like Laverne, they'll go get it done in Antioch. Now, we do have some of those vets that are right there on the border that will get some of our tags, and they'll turn that stuff into us at the end of the year to be able to help us there. But it is Rutherford County law that they do have to have that license tag, which for us, being in Tennessee, being a little bit more rural, is a little bit foreign, but it's probably 2 or 3 times a week. We'll have somebody that will email us saying, I just moved here from typically California, Colorado, those type places. How do I get my license? Because they're used to that. They know they have to get that, and that's one of the first things they think about when they come to our area is, how can I get this done? I make sure my pet's covered. The second question I think you asked me was about the VA.
Relationship with your district attorney is?
Our relationship with our district attorney is good. More so, the problem is, I would say, not with our DA's office, it's more with the judicial system. I guess I have to make sure I choose my words a little carefully here. We have 4 general sessions judges. Sometimes it depends on which judge you get. Okay. One of those general session judges only handles civil cases. So those are potentially dangerous dog and dangerous dog ordinances. Those are civil things. Those go through there. Our county attorney handles those cases. We have very good results when it goes to our PDD cases. The other can be hit or miss. But the problems that we're experiencing when it comes to general sessions court is not a DA issue. It's a bigger issue than that. And the issues that we're experiencing, if you ask most of the law enforcement agencies in our county, they're experiencing the same things. Does that make sense?
You know. So, maybe we can have that conversation off the record. But, I heard you say earlier that animal control will never pay for itself, and I can rightfully so understand that anytime you have a service, it's not, you're not gonna get a return typically. So, again, how do you say that your best practices to be conservative with your budget, as you said, taking about 200 or 2.3 million taxpayer money for a service, and then also the second part is where are you housed? Are you housed in a county building? And then also how are you prepared to handle 50 cats at a time to where it may be different than typical animal control? And I can repeat those for you.
Let me answer the last part first.
Sure.
Let's go back to the first part. So we have a shelter. We're not located downtown. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Murfreesboro. I-24 runs down. We're on the opposite side of 24. If you know where our ag center is, Lane Agri Park, we're on part of that property. There's a road that intersects us, but we're right there. So very thankful for that. When they built the shelter there in 2004, it was still kind of on the outskirts. But now there's basically an entire city on the other side of 24 where we are, and it's a very good location. Unfortunately, we're landlocked, so I don't know what we're going to do. It's something that we tried to plan for quite some time. It is a county-owned shelter. They built the shelter. It opened in 2004. For us, we are out of space. The biggest thing that we've experienced space-wise when it comes to the shelter part of it is not per se the animal part, it's the people part. Back in 2004, when they built that shelter, there were only 200,000 people. Yeah, they were growing, and they had to get out of where they were. That was awful. But there was nowhere else for us to go. So I wish we had a crystal ball. I wish they had a crystal ball at that time. I mean, I just came in 2004 and started in this industry. We never foresaw the growth that we were going to have. We never foresaw the way that sheltering and animal control would change. So in 2004, if you wanted a PR person or you wanted a foster volunteer coordinator, they never thought in 2004 that was going to happen in Rowan County. In 2004, you only had 2 folks that were trying to man 2 desks. That doesn't work. So you always had officers that were staying in off the road to do that. You only had, I think, 12 officers at that time. So we put our officers down. You had officers that were having to stay and answer the phone, so you were paying an officer more than what they should have been paid to answer the phone, or you should have had somebody else over here doing that, utilizing their skills in the field. So, the budget, yes, I try to keep it conservative. I mean, this is the budget year that we're going to be going into. I walked in and we were, I think, $60,000 less than what we were this year. I try to maintain where we are. If I come in and ask for something, the commission knows that I'm going to back it up. I'm going to bring you data. I'm not someone who just on the whim wants to go and do something. I'm very analytical, data driven. So, if I'm coming in and I say I need another officer, which we did that, we asked for 2 officers, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. We walked in and said, here's what our call volume was, here's where our call volume is now, and with the growth I can continue. And be able to show them that data. It's not that I just hire somebody, just want a new position, get a new position. There were times where we were asked to bring a needs and a wants budget from one of our county mayors. I couldn't do that. If I come to you, it's because I need it, it's not because I want it. Now, going back to your first question, ask that one again for me.
Oh, how are you prepared? Oh, sorry, that was the 50 cats.
Oh, I didn't answer that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So for the 50 cats, yes, any shelter is going to struggle when it comes to a situation like that to where you're bringing in animals. So we have to figure out a way to juggle it. We always make it happen. My staff is very resilient. They're flexible when it comes to that. In the back, in our vet kennels, we have a room we call our vet room. That's where we put our surgery animals, our surgery dogs for that day. I've got about 8 cage banks back there that hardly ever get used, thank goodness. And I say that they're going to get used tomorrow. But I won't get rid of them. just because I don't know. Y'all asked earlier about search warrants. We had a search warrant that we served a couple of months ago where there was fighting roosters. We thought we were going to bring in 30 to 40 fighting roosters. And it was going to be a nightmare on how to house them in cages and how we were going to move them and how we were going to work it out. But we just don't have a choice. We have to.
Right.
You know, if it came to a 50 dog, that'd be depending on the size of the dogs. I mean, we had one that was 40 dogs. Thank goodness, almost all of them were smaller, so multiples could be housed in guillotines cages together. But you know, if we got a 50 dog case that was 50-pound dogs,
Time to go to work.
well, that's why you have some continuity of operations plans in place, and we have, you know, I mean, we could have, we could have faced that situation last night. Tornadoes.
Right.
I heard on the way up here they confirmed that there were 3. A tornado could have come in and wiped out my shelter last night. I have to have the ability to try to give some type of continuity there for those particular situations. So we have resources in different parts of the county. And is it ideal where we would be housed? No. But do we make it work? Yeah, sure. We have no choice.
Good, thank you. Yes, sir.
So your sheriff's department, when they partner with you guys to go on any of the other calls throughout the county, how does that work with the municipalities that are around you? Do they have jurisdiction in those municipalities? Do you have an MOU signed with them, or how do they help you with that?
There is no MOU. Depending on what jurisdiction we're in, that's what we call. So, Sheriff's Department won't go in the city of Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne. They respect each other's boundaries very well. And that's where I said earlier where we ran into some of those problems where some of those jurisdictions wouldn't help identify someone. Well, Sheriff's Department's not going to show up and identify that person for us, but if I back off and give them information, they'll help me with that. But they don't cross each other's lines.
So that's just another milestone we have to make, would be to have relationships with municipalities, law enforcement, to do this, if we went another direction. So shifting gears, your veterinarian is an integral part of your process. If you were to lose your veterinarian for any reason tomorrow, how would you pick up and go back to that? And let me explain a little bit why I'm asking that question. We've been told that it is really, really hard to secure a veterinarian just because in practice, there's not a lot of them extra around, but we've had some bad history with veterinarians with having to prosecute veterinarians in the past, for decade, 2 decades ago or so, just because of problems. And it's understandable why some people would be gun shy, but I wonder how prevalent veterinarians are out there and how you would handle that.
Let me go back to something you said when you finished up over the jurisdiction part, saying you'd have to work something out with them. I think the way that you need to approach that with them, or one potential way to approach that with them, is they need your assistance just as much as you need theirs. They're going to call you just as much as you're going to call them to go out and assist on things. So it's a two-way street there. So it's one way potentially of helping with that particular situation.
Well, and also you mentioned that your cities contribute to this also, and right now Hendersonville, I think, is doing it on their own. We don't have them helping out, but we are providing for the rest of the county, I believe, is my understanding when I heard from the law director. But could you speak to the veterinarian, please? And then I know Commissioner Wright is probably more well versed in what I mentioned before about the veterinarian, so correct me on anything that I said there, if you can add any more facts in the case that would help explain that, or if I just flat got it wrong, explain about our past with veterinarian issues.
If you don't mind, can I say one thing before we go to the veterinarian part? When I was at Bedford, the city of Shelbyville had animal control. and then none of the rest of the county did when they first started. And the county commissioners were so concerned that if they opened up a county animal control, the city was going to shut theirs down. That was their biggest fear that was going to happen. So inside Bedford County, you had the city of Shelbyville, you had the town of Normandy, you had Belleville, and you had Wartrace, which were small towns. They set us up. It was really, really weird at the time. I think it was based on situs tax, what we call, to where we were only funded from taxes, sales taxes that came from outside those jurisdictions. So when it came to, like you were talking about, I think you said Hendersonville has their own. So they set it up that way so that the city couldn't close theirs down because we weren't funded direct from property taxes. We were funded from sales tax out in those communities. So any sales tax, so like Belleville, Wartrace, and Normandy, we went back and set up a contract with them per call or per animal to go in and provide services if they wanted us to do that. So there were some ways that they did that. So like if Hendersonville has theirs, it's not, there's ways that you could do some things that only service kind of the county jurisdictions, if that makes sense. I know that's a little bit odd. It was odd then in 2004 when they set it up. It's still odd today, but that's still the model that they're running under because they're so afraid the city of Shelbyville will shut down. So you wanted to add something on the veterinarian part.
I'm going to clarify some things I may see this.
Okay.
The county did have our animal control division.
Okay.
Okay? And the veterinarian who was euthanizing at the time was euthanizing by what used to be an approved method, but it's not anymore. Basically, it was harvesting, and you can't do that. The only way you can do that is if the animal's completely out, basically comatose.
Correct.
The sheriff's office, the county went to Sheriff Barker, who was a sheriff then, and pleaded and begged for him to take it. And he said he would under certain conditions. One of them was a new facility, which we got. Of course, former Sheriff Weatherford described it to me with animal control. You have a limited number of space. And it's like filling a glass up with marbles. You can only fit so many in there. Then it starts overflowing. Until you get a bigger glass, you're not going to put more marbles in there. It's just like their animal control. Another specific that Sheriff Barker made was that all of our animal control officers, not only are they certified animal control officers, but they are also deputies, certified law enforcement officers in this state. I say we because I was an animal control officer for about 6 years. And you'll talk about euthanasia. There was a time whenever it was just me and a supervisor. So you go figure that one out. It racked up big time. We handle all cases, period, from start to finish. We would handle search warrants, we wrote our own search warrants, we served our search warrants. CID, Criminal Investigation Division, our detectives were left out of the loop because we took care of every bit of it. We didn't enforce ordinances. We don't do that. We only enforce laws. And I know you said Rutherford County law, but realistically it is a ordinance, correct?
Regulation, yes, sir.
But that kind of gives you a history. And there again, I appreciate your insight and I appreciate you coming up tonight. Thank you. I'm getting old. So yes, it was a few years back. Yes, for sure.
Well, first of all, you very well know then what it's like
And they're done.
to do this work. Yes, sir. And there was a time when I was at Bedford, there was a full calendar year where I was the only employee. So I was doing that without the supervisor. I was the supervisor. And probably was too dumb to know any different, I guess. But we didn't lower our standards when it came to information. And that's something that, within my shelter now, that's one of the quickest ways to get yourself in trouble, is we have to make sure that that is done correctly. Every single time, 0 pointers can be cut. If you go back, if you've been through the training, you know what euthanasia stands for. It stands for good death. And I know that sounds kind of an oxymoron, but if we're going to do it, we need to make sure it's done humanely and respectfully. And we do that every time. When it comes to the veterinarian question, we did lose a vet. Back early on, in 2012, our initial vet did leave. At that time, we were not doing the surgery programs, we were only doing in-house animals. So we had gone from where there were vouchers issued out to our doctors, or to their vet of their choice, and then we were delivering that animal. Okay, I thought maybe I'd push the button again. So we were delivering those animals around. It was taking an officer half a day to do that, just to make any sense. And we can do it much cheaper in-house. But in 2012, we did lose our first vet. So they walked out the door on a Friday. I spent all weekend long. I'd worked at the vet office back when I was in high school and college. I spent that weekend calling every veterinarian on the relief vet list, and on Monday we were doing surgeries. So we had folks that were coming in. Now, I had to find a supervising veterinarian, which we did. That's our chief veterinarian now. She actually had been doing relief work and done corporate vet work, and she came on as our full-time veterinarian probably maybe 6 months after that original vet left. During that time, that's when our surgery programs really ramped up, and it was more work than what she could do. So we set up contracts with a couple of different veterinarians that would come in and work 1 day a week. So we tried to schedule our heaviest surgery days on those days. That still wasn't enough. We started posting 2017, 2018, a part-time vet position. Didn't get any applicants. Finally got it to a full-time vet position. I think we got 1 or 2 applicants. They refused our offers. But last year around this time, we did the review and we were able to get filled on July 1 our second vet position. Since that time, we phased out our contract vets. We do still have contacts with them, so if we got into a bind, I could help to bring them back in, and we can keep some money in our budget. So if that happens, let's say somebody goes out sick, we have a scare at one point a health concern, so we always make sure that we try to have some type of backup plan in place. When it does come to the veterinarians, it's very, very difficult. Like I said, we started that in 2017, we filled it in 2024. Now, part of that though is when we first posted it, it was a part-time position. Those are very, very difficult to fill. Obviously, everybody wants the benefits. They want something that's going to be consistent. The other part of it, though, too, is our county pay plan has changed significantly since that time. You can't get a veterinarian that's coming out of school with a 4-year degree with $200,000 of debt to take a job making, at that time, I think it was $80,000 or $85,000. They're worth more than that. I know friends I have a friend that worked down in Houston. They had 4 veterinary companies at one time. They were hiring them for $120,000 a year, and they were giving them $25,000. Basically a bonus, pay off part of their student loans with debt forgiveness. And they were still having a loss finding folks. So yes, veterinarians are hard to come by. They can't pump them out of the schools fast enough. There are some things that they are doing within the industry now. It used to be UT was your only vet school. Now you've got Lincoln Memorial that has a vet school. Lincoln Memorial is also looking at doing, I can't remember the name they're actually calling it, but if you kind of think about a doctor and a physician's assistant, it would kind of be the same thing, to where they could do some of those minor things. And I think they're even going to allow them to do some minor surgeries. So that allows them to get some folks out that don't have that debt that potentially could open up some things for shelters. I'm not saying it's going to change everything today. It's a long process. But for us, we were in it for the long term.
what kind of salary you guys pay your vet?
It ranges based on their experience. I think and our pay tables just changed. I think straight out of school, 0 experience, I think it's around 100,000. And then the way our pay grades are, they will only pay you up to a step 5. They're working on supposedly getting that changed to a step 10. So if you were a veterinarian that had 20 years experience and you came to work for me, the most I could pay you would be a step 5 or a step 10, and you would forfeit 10 years of your experience. So they're looking at ways of making it to where all of that credit would count to go help with that pay. So there's advantages though, and you have to think about some of those things too. The private veterinarian, they're going to be working all hours of the day and night. Here you're getting holidays. I mean, the vet that we hired back in July, she didn't know what it was like to get holidays off. And, we get every county holiday. She has good insurance, benefits. We do some things too to try to help entice that. We give them X amount of money per year towards continuing education. We pay for all their license fees to TVMA, AVMA, those type things. So we try to do some things there that aren't necessarily salary items, but things that they don't have to pay for on their own as well. Try to help entice them. But it's a very, very difficult market. A lot of your veterinary clinics now are going corporate, so you're competing against them, and they're given a base salary and they're given a commission. There's no way I can get a commission. We're not bringing in any money, so I've got to try to get you in on the salary line.
What's the step 5 max range?
I don't know offhand. I do know that I believe it's a 1.75. It's a 1.75% increase between steps. So whatever 1.75 is, you need to do that out over those 5 steps to get you there. Now that's for the position that's just classified as veterinarian. Our veterinarian has been there for quite some time. She's considered the chief veterinarian, supervisor veterinarian, and that's going to be a different pay rate, obviously. She has more responsibilities.
I want to say one more time, thank you so much. This is above and beyond, guys. This is not even a county employee for us. This is for the county. So we're thankful to you and the mayor and the folks that allowed you to come here today. Thanks for just being kind enough to run for the county. I mean, that's literally the volunteer state. It's really showing us. I appreciate you very much.
Yes, sir. And you and Commissioner Jones have my contact with my email. That's going to be the best way to reach me. So if you have further questions, get that, shoot me emails, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for having me.
This is fantastic to have someone take the time to do something like that. I would ask that we suspend the rules just to have, I don't even think I asked you to suspend the rules on you, so sorry about that. But I'd like to ask if we could suspend the rules and just ask this part B, presentation of the bid process for third-party private auction. I'd just like to ask our finance director, David Long, to just kind of walk us through that. If you don't mind. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
For our department to look at, you have to come up with some specifications. I'm not sure right here, listening to discussions exactly what you want. So the best thing to do would be find a representative as the sheriff and committee member or representative to come back and work with their purchasing department. Right now, the discussion, I'm not sure if you want to look at just picking up the stray animals, holding them in the statutory minimum, and putting them to sleep. If you want to set the option for the building, there's all kind of questions. If you're going to enact fees, if you're going to increase it. He was talking around $500,000 worth of fees, right now you're bringing in about $13,000. Kind of give you a comparison, and then also, I believe, if I understand this discussion is countywide versus the cities right now. I believe Henderson is there, so right now you need to study it deeper and find out what specifications you want if you want us to outsource. Because I don't see in a contract we didn't really go into those kind of details, and then I don't believe you're going to be serving the warrants and stuff with an outsourced agency. I don't believe you can. So the investigations and stuff, I would guess we get back to the sheriff's department. So that's a discussion. Do you have any questions as far as what steps you want us to look at.
I know that just a few questions, I appreciate you saying that, but do you know, you know, just want to know, do you know what we're charging, like, what our cost is per animal, I guess you'd say right now?
I've heard the numbers, but I don't know if that's true. I know our budget is a little over $800,000, and that doesn't include the utilities on the program, but extend somewhere else, we can come up with that. But the other thing is we do a comparison with other counties, for instance, he was discussing working with the city police and working with the municipalities. I'm not sure. That's more of a question of the sheriff will be going with the municipalities. I don't think we're going to get it. So that would make a huge, if you take out Gallatin and Hendersonville alone, we're doing a per animal comparison, that's less than 100,000 compared to 300,000. So right now, I'm not sure of the cost per animal. I don't have the number of animals. I can give you the cost of what we're charging. I've heard numbers that are around myself. I haven't
I can venture to say that we are only picking up what's in Sumner County. City of Portland, I know, has their own animal control. I believe Gallatin has their own animal control. Hendersonville has theirs. So I think right now we're only in the unincorporated parts of the county. Now, they may bring them to our shelters, especially with the city of Gallatin. I remember when I was dispatching there that they would bring them over to the county shelter. But as far as animal control in the city municipalities, the city police department, the proper of that city handles that. So I'll say that's one of the good actions.
Of course, we will assist. The sheriff's office, I don't think has ever refused to assist another agency. I know when I was an animal control officer, deputy, I helped Gallatin, Hendersonville with some of their cases. Now, of course, that all I would do was assist them. It was still their daily charges and whatnot. I would just help them provide as much as possible.
What is our able to do comparisons to make a big difference? The other thing I believe, and I'll have to go back, I believe Hendersonville may have paid us at one time, and our animal control fees went down, so I think some things have changed. Mr. Harry, who was earlier, has been changed many times over the years, and you take that off the municipalities, your total animal costs is probably going to be closer than line of what you're discussing.
Regardless of the direction we decide to go with this, I do believe that we should talk to our municipalities, the ones that use our facility, if they're bringing them to us, about contributing to our facility, no matter which way we go, because they're getting the benefit.
Any questions? I was going to say, let's bring it back in session if anybody doesn't have any questions. So next steps, I will say, just one concern I have, is if it were to fall under the mayor's office, it feels to me like there's no way to be less expensive than what the budget is now, because I would think would have to increase that way for sure. I don't know that for sure, but it just feels like that once we do that study, I mean, you're adding more employees to the mayor's office, basically, and then the sheriff's supposed to have to do everything in some form or fashion. But, like I said, I may be wrong, forgive me for that. We can, discuss all those things. But my other worry is just that if it were to go privatized, I mean, right now, it seems as though there's a lot of great things going on with what Sheriff Craddock and Sheriff Sparks did. That's just my personal view, just seeing it from me coming in. He's been super open to trying to, he's given, asked people to contact him directly. I think that's one thing just to consider, because I don't want to, the old saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so that really is something I'm concerned about, just because I know that as much as we all care about there's everything that's the most important issue in our county, somebody has an issue, all, myself included, which it doesn't matter now that I'm elected, so my issues don't matter. My people's issues do, but you gotta show our board that. But everybody has an issue that's the most important, no matter what that is. And I think that as we move forward, whatever this is, we have to listen to people, and we have to see, is it gonna be something that people are willing to support through taxes? Because we do not have a budget except for the budget from the people's pockets, myself included, but you understand what I mean? We are not a business, so it's the people's business, and I cannot say that enough. And I don't want to support anything that people are not for, because ultimately, that's going to probably mean some sort of tax increase. Enormous if we're going to get in the standards of what Rutherford's doing, and I just don't know that that's supported, and I just want to make sure that we're very aware. I want the word to get out. I want people to know what they're getting into or what they're asking for if we were to make a change. Because right now, it seems as though there's a lot of good things going on as it is. But I mean, that's my humble opinion, and that's not the opinion of every person I've not had a lot of people reach out. So I guess it is kind of the only opinion I know as of right now. I've had a few people on each side of things reach out and say how much they love it, how much they don't like it, but I've had under 10 total reach out to me just for transparency on how anyone feels for or against it. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of everything. I know that you guys want to, and I just want to make sure I said that statement. I'm not saying for or against it, but just so you know.
One of the advantages that we have right now with the sheriff's office being in control of animal control is not only are they certified animal control officers, but they are also certified deputies in the state of Tennessee. During before the sheriff's office took over animal control, and I'm an employee of the sheriff's office. I've been with them for right at 20 years. I love my job, especially now. But when the county had it before, if we had an animal cruelty case, we would have to bring in sheriff's deputies, detectives. That still tied up the sheriff's office personnel doing animal control work. So that is one of the reasons why when Sheriff Barker took it, when the county asked him to take it, he had certain stipulations. The only way that he would take it, and there again, one of those was all animal control officers are certified deputies. You want to talk about fun? Whenever you are in a pickup truck that says Sumner County Sheriff's Office Animal Control, and you catch somebody speeding, and you write them a citation, and they're like, dude, you're the dog catcher. Guess what? I'm more than that. Thank you.
So I lost some of my thoughts, but that's what I've asked for several months. And I'll just be candid, and you mentioned humble opinion, that's kind of where I'm going to come from. I don't know that we have a plan of our final destination of where we want to end up at. I told the commissioner last month, so I don't have to call the commissioner out the month before. Has anybody came up with a plan of where we want to go? I'm not saying that I'm opposed to any of it, but I don't know where we're trying to get to. I don't know if we're just wanting to take the animal care part of it and give it to the private part. I don't know if we're wanting to take the surgeries and give it to a private part. I don't know if we're wanting to take animal cruelty and give it to the Department of Ag. Has anybody talked to the Department of Agriculture to see if they're even interested? We have all of these moving parts, but yet we keep having meetings to have meetings. So what I'll, again, say is, we don't know our plan. Sure, we can come up with stuff, and we can put stuff on paper, but we as the governing body, we know where we want to get. I mean, we already here in the 5th district, hear people griping and grumbling how much their taxes went up. If we in the county look at supporting $3.2 million, before we even start the budget this year, before we even have a plan on how we're going to spend the budget this year, that's about, give or take a little 5 to 6 cents. I think if we're still at the 600,000, for a penny, if I'm wrong, 3 cents. Okay, well, we're better than I thought. We're still 3 cents. So we're still 2.5 cents higher than the half cent we gave back to them last year. So we're still having a tax increase. That's just on this part. That's not counting the amount of diesel fuel that's went up for the ambulance service. That's not the amount of fuel that's went up for the sheriff's office, mayor, planning. We could go on and on. So, I, as a board member, committee member, assistant chair, vice chair, whatever, I would like to see us come together with a plan. What part do we want? Where are we going to put it? How are we going to get there? We're going to have to sit down at the table with the mayors in the county. We're going to have to sit down with the police chiefs in the county. I mean, this is much, much larger than us saying, we're the governing body, here's what we're doing. We got judges that's going to be involved. We got district attorneys that's going to be involved. We got the State Department of Agriculture that's going to be involved. We're a year away before we ever put feet on this to fund it. If we do it and do it the right way. We're coming here month after month. Now we're in a special call. Now we've been in an ad hoc for about 15 months, and we have no different results toward our goal than what we originally started out with. Sure, we made strides in the sheriff's office. We're doing stuff, but where do we want to get to? I'm going to be honest, I'm tired of hearing about animal control. Because we're not doing anything to make it any grander to get to the final goal of where we're at. And I'm just being candid. We're not. What's the end result and what's the end plan? We don't know. Let's just meet because these animals aren't being treated right. Well, they're better than what it was. Okay, let's have another meeting. This is the very thing we said we didn't want. Bigger government, more government. We're on a slippery slope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Rogers was correct in regards of we do need to decide on a direction to go with. These types of questions and this type of aim and this type of goal was what the Animal Control Ad Hoc Committee was all supposed to be for. It was very difficult to figure out things because it was investigatory. It was find out what we don't know, find out what the best practices should be. It was very hard to get there. We found out a lot of good information over those 12 months that we were allowed to operate. We were able to, through joint investigation, get the Sheriff's Department to implement some of those new best practices and get spayed and neutered and vaccinations all up to 100%, but only over the last 2 months. So none during the operation of the ad hoc committee. It was not implemented until after we shut it down. So we had a stated goal, and it was better care for the animals and trying to get up to modern standards. We're slowly achieving that, and I'm seeing the Sheriff's Department make changes based on these new standards that were discovered. Do we need to have a direction of where we want to end? Yes, but we're not going to get there without an effort of a group of people getting together and ask those questions and making votes on it. was an ad hoc committee. We've been told countless times they had no authority to make change. This committee is the only one that can make votes to make changes in a county direction. And this committee has not wanted to deal with this issue. That's why the ad hoc committee was formed. So we're at the point of, I hear your frustrations, where we brought it now back under the HMS committee. Now our committee has a real opportunity to make a decision on where we go with that. And at that point, it's either going to have to be, like Commissioner Rogers says, taken by committee and figure out all these things as far as what our punch list is going to be for our direction and our goal. Or it's going to have to be, guess what, another ad hoc committee to figure these things out. And it's about where is the will for this committee to make a change. Everybody wants somebody to do something, but this committee is the ones now that's responsible to make those decisions. So I see this going towards.
We're outside of the scope of the special meeting right now, so we need to dive into A or B and then call it over.
Well, so we need to get back to a decision on A or B in the, I guess, next meeting. But to say we're tired of talking about it, I don't think it's a fair statement. Nobody's more tired of me. I've been in this for a long time. I would like to see it go to a direction of A or B, and I hope we can get there with the next meeting, maybe some vote for the direction that my Commissioner Rogers was asking for. But, it's been a long time getting there, but we're at that point now, so where we make that decision.
I appreciate everybody taking a second to talk. Did you I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just to rebuttal with the statement that was made, we don't know what the plan is, so we don't know how to get there. What have been asking for? What's the plan?
Every see.
But it's much bigger than that. There's so many moving parts in that, we can't decide which way we need to go, unless we have a plan about how we want to get there.
I'll entertain.
Why don't you get every part from everybody together in a
Guys,
room?
we're out of order. Please contact us, but I'm sorry. I don't want to be out of order.
When can we have an opportunity then?
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up, and the thing is, we only have 4 of us here. There's nothing on here that's actually a vote. We don't have a vote needed. If anybody would like to speak on this, there's really more information on it anyway tonight. Please contact me at jamie.teachner at Sumner County .gov. I always get the wrong email address. And it will be on the agenda that we'll discuss this, and we'll actually we can have a motion. But please sign up for public comment. That's the appropriate time to do it. And ultimately, I want to remind everyone, A, B, or C, which would mean it would stay under the Sheriff's Department. I don't want to negate that. So please reach out Monday night, and we will see you there. It'll be in room 112, though. Appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate the long time, and I thank you again, Mr. Gregory, for coming out. And there's a lot of thoughts to be talked about, but just please reach out to any of us if you have something you want to say. Please. Thank you so much, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Well, if they're not reading it, and if you don't read it, then they don't know what you're talking about. It's a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face to the, it's a slap in the